Welcome to the Lair Secrets podcast. Tonight we are talking about D8 house rules for Shadowdark. I'm Ken Newquist, and I have almost completed painting the U.S.S. Enterprise flying model rocket.
I am David Moore, and I have been chasing Renfield around the sanatorium while avoiding Dracula.
Fascinating. But we're not going to talk about that tonight. Instead, we're talking about house rules. And so our first house rule comes from Flourish, and it is no torch alarms. So with this house rule, players are not allowed to use a timer to keep track of torches on their side. They can look at a watch or phone and know the time, but they can't set a stopwatch or a timer to keep track of the torches for them. So I guess this is no visible torch then. And this limitation puts more responsibility on the players to remember to deal with their torches before they go out. So I don't know how I feel about that. I mean, it adds a lot of uncertainty, but I like the tension of the guys watching the torch slowly burn down to nothing.
I have a slight modification to it. I think people should be able to see that the torch is there and kind of get a little bit of a hint about where things are. I'm biased because I built the physical torch timer. So, but can you vamp while I go get it?
Yes, I mean, I actually did the complete opposite of everything today, where I just didn't even start the timer during my lunchtime game. It had been a little bit since we'd played, and so I got like 15 minutes in. I'm like, damn, I didn't start the torch timer, because they were talking about like throwing torches to like be able to light the other side of the room, and I'm like, wait a minute, it might go out. Well, wait a minute, the torch hasn't even started yet.
I like being able to see that the torch is active. We did have an app. What was it? It was the
Torchlight timer.
Torchlight timer that we use. I still have it on my, or actually Shadow Torch is the one I was looking at. It's on the mobile phone. And you can add a torch and it lights up and you can change the colors and things like that. But the other thing that you can do is, I believe there was a way I thought to remove the timer part here at the bottom.
Gotcha.
Or here at the top. And I thought that was a good idea. Because you can kind of see it. And I think that torch kind of goes down a little bit as well. The torch timer I have here is, have we shown this before on the show?
I don't know. I think you've maybe a prototype.
I had the prototype. This is an upgrade from the original prototype. The original prototype had like orange glass things on the side, but this is a slight change from the original. It's internally, it's a mess, but this is a flame bulb. It's got a Arduino micro and a relay in it. So when and a tiny micro switch, so it'll light up. And then after 20 minutes, the Arduino triggers the relay and it will go to, that was not it. There we go. So that's the first one. And then it goes to this second one, which is kind of a breathing sort of look. It fades in and out.
Gotcha.
And then so that's 40 minutes in, and then it switches to the torches flickering and about to go out, which I really like that because it gives everybody an idea of how much time has passed, but it doesn't let them know exactly how much time there is left.
Right.
The game that I just played, I used this with, and what I found interesting was before I even pulled this out and they knew it was a 1 hour timer, no one pulled out their phone to try and track that time, which I thought was great.
Yeah. Yeah, it's the downside of people looking on their phones, right, to keep track of the time, because you're on your phone and then you see a Facebook update or Pinterest or, whatever, and suddenly we've just lost them to their phone. But anyway, I like the idea of like putting some responsibility on the players to like keep track of, like, hey, like, how's the torch doing? Related to the first one is another house rule where it's 1 hour minus D12 on torch timer. So basically the GM subtracts a D12 from the torch timer so that no one is quite sure when it's going to go out, which adds he says, this alteration adds a little fun variance. I think it would add stress and anxiety, but your mileage may vary.
I think it adds stress and anxiety onto the players, and it's a little fun variance onto the GM.
Yes.
Yeah, what do you think about this one?
I don't know. I mean, so honestly, I think we're still just new enough to Shadowdark that we haven't really needed to mess with different variant timers yet. I think the drama of the torch burning down has been enough to kind of keep them motivated and moving. And it also helps that our game is an hour, right? Like it's a lunchtime game. You only have an hour. So it's not only keeping track of like the torch burning down, but also the amount of time we have left before we're on to our next meeting. So I think it's just been a nice synergy, and having a D12 would probably mess with us, but I could see it maybe being fun at a con game.
Before I give my opinion, what do you think about the alternate rule for torches where they only last a half hour for your particular game, your lunchtime game? Because then it would give the stress of, oh, shoot, the torch went out in the middle of combat because we weren't paying attention.
Yeah. I mean, I think we end up having that anyway because I carry the timer over to the next session. So
Okay.
like today's session ended at 32 minutes left on the torch. So I'll just start the torch at 32 minutes next week, and then we'll have that. So, I mean, it could be helpful. I don't know. I mean, it's just, on the one hand, adding any complexity to the lunchtime game means we're getting distracted. And so I think the tension of the hour is probably sufficient. With the occasional, hey, the torch is about to go out because we started mid torch.
Yeah. I like this one, but I think you don't need to do this one if you're doing number one. Like if you already are not allowing people to track the timer, humans are really bad at estimating, no matter how often they've done it. You can kind of get a feel for it, but your kind of get a feel is probably within, 5 to 10 minutes. And that's after you played over and over and over again. So like the D12 change, I don't think is necessary if you aren't allowing people to track the timer. I think it would be a little more generous if you did a D12, but then you like flipped a coin or rolled a D6 and you either add or subtract the time onto the torch. So maybe it's a little bit longer than an hour, or maybe it's 12 minutes less than an hour. I like the idea. I would probably use it, except for the fact that I have my own physical torch timer and it's hard coded. I mean, I could write a routine that adds or subtracts 12 minutes from it, up to 12 minutes from it, but I'm not going to do that.
So moving on to our next house rule. This was submitted. We got a lot of house rule feedback from the YouTube channel, by the way. This may be one of the topics we've gotten the most feedback on. And I may massacre some people's usernames, but Macopy 6571 said, after 4 TPKs in 8 sessions, impressive. That's my little editorial there. Impressive. I have not had any TPKs, but anyway, allow me to start over. After 4 TPKs in 8 sessions, our table adopted house rules for henchmen. Make characters raw, rules as written. Players select 1 character each as their main to earn full XP. Henchmen earn 1 full share of treasure and 1/2 XP. A main can manage up to 4 henchmen plus minus charisma modifier. Players tend to run a main plus 3 henchies. Initiative is only rolled for the main PC, but the player may order their character's actions anyway on their turn. Wow, man, if you got a campaign that's this fatal,
yeah,
maybe you definitely need to have henchmen.
Yeah. When I played a funnel with, I had 4 level 0 characters, but the way they did it there was, if one person would die, we only had just the number of people at the table. That was the number of characters. But as soon as someone died, basically the next round, one of their other characters would run into the room. I kind of like the idea of having henchmen there, and you're basically paying the henchman a full share of treasure. The question I have is, does each henchman earn a full share of treasure and half XP?
Right.
Or does it split again? Is 1 full share split amongst the henchmen? I'm guessing if a main character dies, one of the henchmen steps in and becomes the main character. I don't think Macopy said that in their comment, but most likely, like, that's how I would see it probably happening.
Yes.
It's very old school D&D, where the higher level you got, you could hire henchmen.
Yes.
But this is like, you have henchmen at level 1.
Right.
So yeah, I agree with you, Ken. If your sessions are every 2 games, the entire party gets wiped out. Yes, add henchmen for sure. Our next one, I would say don't use henchmen, because you're becoming overpowered at that point.
Yeah.
Our next one is use your constitution score as hit points. GM G.I. Joe says they give your player hit points equal to your con score at level 1. And oh my gosh, that can be a heck of a lot of points. Like a wizard with 11 hit points at level 1 would be huge.
It does make them very less squishy.
It does make them very less squishy.
Yeah, it's interesting, right? So I think it all goes for the vibe you're going with. And if you want people to survive first level and they're still going up against level 1 creatures, then sure, okay. I guess, again, whatever works at your table. There's no wrong answers. But yeah, I mean, it does take some of the dread out of it, right? So in today's session, one of the guys who hadn't joined us in a while joined, and so he hadn't leveled up his rogue, and his rogue has 3. So he was very worried about what was going to happen to his character during the game. So, you don't have that dread if you have 9 or 14, right? So I don't know. I think it's an interesting concept. I also think going back to the henchmen for a second, like, I could also see having a lesser number of henchmen. Like you've got the torchbearer, right? Or you have 2 torchbearers, or you have like the caddy, right? Like who's basically along for the ride as the NPC. And like everybody agrees that if your character buys it, tag in the caddy. I guess if you're actually killing all your characters every 2 sessions, you might also need to scale back on the lethality a little bit. But then again, it's also very old school to say if they're just running into the meat grinder, right? Like don't go up against the level 6 monster, right? Maybe you should be running away, guys.
Yeah, I mean that is part of Shadowdark that they talk about it. You don't get XP for monsters unless you play with like the monster. What is the rule? I just had the page open. Hunter mode. Hunter mode gives you XP for killing monsters, but if you're not playing with that variant rule, you don't get XP for defeating a monster or killing a monster. So sometimes the better part of Valor is sneaking around, or rocks fall and the entrance to the big baddie's cave is sealed off after you've stolen their treasure.
Right. How can you evade them rather than kill them, right? So
Anyway,
both of these are interesting concepts. I think, again, do what works for your group. I am enjoying like the threat of lethality because I haven't actually killed any characters, except I think we killed 1 off screen. So
my last game is the first time I've ever actually killed a character, and that was a fun one because the fighter ran in and got hit a couple of really hard times, drops, rolled a 2 for his number of rounds before he died. The mage, I believe, ran in and she was able to revive him, but it was mid combat and the torch had gone out, I believe, is at that point. Revived him and then or stabilized, didn't revive him. He was still at 0, but stable and unconscious.
right.
And then the monster killed her. So it was like we thought that fighter was just gonna die, just gonna eat it. The mage ran in and valiantly stabilized the fighter and then got killed. And I rolled really badly. Actually, no, I think it was 4 rounds for the fighter, but I think it was only 2 rounds for the mage, and just absolutely wiped it. They did have a chance to stabilize her, but were out of luck points and failed the stabilization rolls.
Damn.
Yeah.
So yeah, can't be a very lethal game. Surprisingly, my D&D 5e campaign, I've killed far more characters than in Shadowdark, but maybe I just haven't been trying hard enough. Moving on, so going back, you actually referenced this one earlier, 30-minute timers for torches. Brad, so sorry, going back to what we discussed earlier, we have 30-minute timers for torches. This was provided by Brad Utterstrom, 4105. And he says, I play solo, so most of my rules are geared towards solo play for torches. I set a 30-minute timer, and after 30 minutes, there's a 50-minute chance it burns out. And if it doesn't burn out, it can last up to 90 minutes.
Oh, I see. So there's blitz mode in the book, which is the torch lasts 30 minutes and then it goes out. But this one it could last a lot longer, but after 30 minutes, you do like a roll a d6, 1 to 3, it goes out, 4 to 6, it stays lit. And I guess that can happen twice in this case.
Yeah, sounds like it.
So hour and a half. I mean, that could be very lucky. I kind of like this one because it would mean that people would be really nervous about the 30-minute mark, but might also push their luck a little bit in case they were feeling lucky and that they could win that 50-50 chance.
Yes.
And then it goes another half an hour.
And I like push your luck stuff in games.
Yeah. The thing that I found was in the game that I last played is they had a lantern, they had multiple torches, and I thought they had way too many possible light sources for the adventure. And over the course of 5 hours, they basically, over the course of 4 hours, they went through basically all of them and then had to run back to town, buy more stuff, and then come back for the last hour and had enough light for the rest of the game. They wanted to like split up their light sources so they could explore the area faster. They wouldn't have to be confined to a near circle. Yeah, it was good. It was a good time. So I think this 50-50, up to an hour and a half torch is kind of a cool idea.
Yeah, I think it's also cool.
That would push it.
Right, because it gives them the option of being able to, like you say, like gamble a little bit more with having multiple light sources and not having them automatically all go out at the same. Like that you're burning through torches faster, because that was a consideration of my game today. Like they had one torch, like guys, you could light another torch. Like yeah, but then it's on the other timer. It's on the main timer, and like we're trying to conserve our lights. I'm like, but you're under the town. You could go back and get more torches.
Yes,
but you know what? It's cool. I like the fact that they're thinking about it, light as a resource, and I don't want to quash that. Anyway, if I was running a longer duration, if my lunchtime sessions were longer, I could see this being attractive. But this one doesn't actually work for me. But I could see it working in a con game or a home game. So our next one is Sneaky Triggers, also from Brad, who says, for thieves, I roll a stealth check to see if they can hide, sneak around to trigger their sneak attack. And I like this one because it's come up a couple of times where I feel like, and honestly, this goes back to D&D. I feel like the rogues keep being like, well, if I can't see in the dark, I can't be in the dark, which means I can't sneak attack. So I guess I never get to sneak attack.
Yeah, I've heard a variant on that theme. Once the combat starts and they're aware of your presence the first time, you can't get another backstab. And it says if you hit a creature who is unaware of your attack. And I think that leaves things open definitely for this rule, this, stealth check sort of thing. I would ask the player, hey, how are you hiding? How are you sneaking? How are you avoiding their notice and making them unaware of where you are? And if they're able to do that, and maybe with a good dex check, they could get another sneak attack or another.
Yeah, I mean,
backstab.
honestly, I think given the ethos of Shadowdark, I'd just be like, give you a good explanation, it's yours. Right? Like, unless, I don't know, like the cavern's wet, or, there's some other complicating factor that makes it a real challenge. But like, if the fighter is charging in, backed up by the cleric, yelling out prayers to their god, and the rogue's like, I'm going to cling to the wall and then shoot around the corner.
Yep.
I think I would go with that, because you're feeding the narrative, right?
Yeah, I agree. I like this one. I would almost say that I already play with this one. I almost don't view it as a house rule. Like, I think, and maybe it is a house rule because that's the way I play it. But,
right.
I think, it also makes sense for, like, if you have a halfling thief, as soon as you go invisible, well, that guy's enemy's not aware of where you are. They're aware you're there, but they don't know where you are. You could walk right up in front of them and they wouldn't know.
Yeah. So I like this idea just because it's gonna, sometimes like the mechanic just encourages players to take those risks. And if you want them to be moving into opportunity, like having opportunities to set up sneak attacks so that they get themselves into trouble, this could feed into that. So our next one is More Magic Missiles, also by Brad. So thanks, Brad, for all the submissions. This house rule is Magic Missile has 2 missiles at D3 instead of 1 missile at D4. And I kind of like it. For one, funky dice. I always like funky dice. But also, like, traditional D&D, you're always firing 3 1d4 magic missiles, right? And Shadowdark.
Yeah.
Because you can spam it every turn as long as you don't fail your check. I can see why you would only be doing 1 per turn. But I like this idea because it feels a little bit more like what magic missile is usually in D&D. If you're like nostalgic for your classic magic missile.
Yeah, if you're nostalgic for your wizard throwing more than 1 magical missile. I'm thinking about it because, like, the math of the dice also, you're doing a minimum of 2 damage and a maximum of 6. So you're doing a little bit more on the magical side. I think the implication here is you could split the missiles into 2 separate targets as well.
So you could also hit 2 targets.
Yeah. I'd be tempted to use this one, but I also need to feel what higher level play is like, because I understand that wizards become really, really powerful at higher levels. Almost, I mean, it's a common refrain throughout all of Dungeons and Dragons history
Right,
is
of course.
wizards get too powerful like once they hit 5th level or beyond. But I have yet to hit that, so I don't know how that works in Shadowdark. This is one I'm tempted to use, but I also want to make sure that wizards don't outshine any other class.
Yeah. I think I can see reasons for using it. And to Brad's point, he's running in a solo game, right? So when you're running this as a solo player, having a little more oomph from your magic missile as your go-to for wizard anyway is probably helpful from a survivability and game perspective,
Yes.
right? Whereas if you're running it in your regular game, yeah, I could see like the spell slinger starting to outshine some of the other characters. But they may also die more because all the goblins realize that guy's doing a lot of damage and he doesn't look like he's very strong.
Yeah. I will say that the players that I played with in the last game did not like the fact that the monsters went after the torch and not even the torch bearer. And that was yet another reason why they went from one light source to more than one light source.
Yes, because once you start attacking the light, redundancy becomes more important, right?
Yes. So I like it.
Yeah. So the next one, and I can't remember if I came across this, you came across this, someone recommended it, because it's not attributed in our show notes here, but it's the crawling clock. So the crawling clock is for random encounters and it was inspired by Goblin Punch's Underclock write-up. We're gonna have a link to the PDF in the show notes. But basically the crawling clock is this. So instead of having your regular random encounters where it's a D6 chance mechanic, you start off with a counter of a D20 and you start at 20. And then you roll a D6 at the end of the game master's turn. And then you subtract that amount from the D20. So it's variable. And then when you get the clock to 0, a random encounter is triggered. And then you resolve it per normal. And if the crawling die's result is greater than the number on the crawling clock, it carries over to the next clock. So presumably if like you were at a 3 and then you rolled a 6, it wouldn't trigger a random encounter. It would just reset the die and you would subtract 3 and start at 17. So I'm really curious about this because honestly, I forget to do random encounters. Again, partially because of my lunchtime game, I don't really have time for random encounters because we're already just trying to move things along. But this could work for me because it introduces the possibility of random encounters without them being every D6 rounds, which is way too much for lunchtime.
Yeah, I'm glad that they put in the hidden clock area, because at the beginning of it, it says the clock begins at 20 and you place that D20 on the table so that everyone can see it. But there's also a hidden clock option, which is, some people don't want to quote unquote game the system and know that a random encounter is coming. So you hide that clock. I like the idea because it is a random amount of time before a random encounter happens, but a random encounter will happen is the guarantee of it. And I think, you said that it would roll over and you wouldn't get a random encounter if it was at like 3 and you roll a 6.
If I'm reading it correctly, yes.
Okay. The way I was reading it was that the random encounter would, when it hits 0, it triggers, but then the next crawling die you put out there would be a 17.
So an optional rule for the optional rule, you could do it either way. For me, I don't necessarily want the random encounters to trigger, but I want the threat of random encounters to be there. So having it carry over and not trigger would probably be more beneficial in my case.
Yeah.
But I have to remember it.
But you would always have to hit that 0 exactly, which it would be a hard thing to do as well.
Yeah. They also have this spores and omens. If the crawling clock is reduced to a number equal to 5 or lower, but does not hit 0, the GM may wish to roll the random encounter and then telegraph the result.
Okay. Yeah.
So like it's coming. You smell the horrible smell. You hear the horrible sounds.
Yeah. So you would roll what the random encounter was, but the characters would start to get an idea of what might be coming and maybe could get ready for it. I like that idea. I like the crawling clock. When I was running the latest Shadowdark campaign, I was rolling random encounters. I rolled over the course of 5 hours. I rolled a lot of random encounter dice, but I only had one random encounter the entire time, which is probably a good thing for the party. Also, the random encounter happened to be a person they could convince was on their side. So it wasn't a monster that would just try and eat them. So I like this idea of the crawling clock because it also, having that D20 there would remind me, hey, you need to keep track of random encounter stuff.
Right.
I got to a point because I basically went around the table, and when I was done around the table, I would roll the die. But that's still something I'm getting used to, is the whole random encounter side of things, because I'm not usually one to do random encounters.
Yes, I actually kind of got away from them. I've been more likely to have like scripted wilderness encounters when I've been doing D&D. Like you get to the place and a thing happens, but you know they have their attraction. Like you can get the problem with a random encounters, you can get bogged down in them, right? It can turn the game into a slug if they're just continually happening. But they also create tension because you don't know when they're going to happen. Like honestly, in my last 5e session, we were just talking about this. It's like, well, really, how many encounters are you going to have before you have to rest, take a long rest? It's going to be 2 or 3. Well, actually, it could, if you keep hammering them with random encounters, it could be quite a lot,
Yeah.
right? Just because that just assumes you're following the guidance for 5th edition. And Shadowdark doesn't have that guidance.
Yeah. The thing I like about random encounters is when a group needs to, like, they're beat up and they can't, like, they don't want to go back or they can't go back and they have to hole up in the dungeon. There's an entire possibility there, a lot of tension of, is something going to show up in the middle of us resting?
Yes,
But
yes,
it's
exactly
not.
so.
It takes the GM as trying to kill us off the table, because they know that everybody knows a random encounter is a thing, and the GM is going to roll to see if there is one. So it's up to the math rocks whether or not something's going to show up. It's not up to the GM's choice in that sense. Well, it probably is, but
Yes.
so that's our D8 Shadowdark House rules. We've got a few more coming up in a future episode, but we figured 8 is a good number right now. It's not the odd number of dice like Ken likes, but if you want to subscribe to us on YouTube, that'd be great. We're also on Moonbeam and a couple other places, but I don't want to end it here. If people want to stick around and find out what the heck Ken meant about almost done painting the U.S.S. Enterprise, stick around. Tell us about it, Ken.
Yeah, you know what? I forgot we were going to talk about it tonight, or otherwise I would have brought up the Enterprise. It's hanging out downstairs. So I have this flying model rocket. We've been talking about it for a while. Probably been showing up on one of the episodes at least. And I say I've been working on it for several weeks. I've been intently working on it for the last several weeks, but I've actually been working on it for like 2 years because it's coming again. It's a hard model to work on. You need to be motivated. So Neutron Lab, my son says he'll likely graduate from college before I finish it, but I am getting really, really close. And so I've actually painted everything. I've painted like almost all the fine details I need to. I think I've painted as much as I want to do, because hand painting models is challenging, a little bit nerve-wracking, especially when you've spray painted the base coat and now you need to do this thing. And as I was painting the details, I don't think it's a left-handed thing. I think it was just out of practice thing, but like I kept accidentally like dry brushing other parts of the ship. Like I'd hit a warp nacelle and there'd be a little bit of green or a little bit of red from the lights that I was painting. So then I had to mask everything again and spray paint the body. And I did that twice.
No.
So now where I've gotten to is the most challenging part is trying to put 50-year-old water-based decals on the ship. So the way model rocket decals work, and a modern, I think this is true. I haven't bought a new model rocket in years because I have inherited all these rockets from my dad. But like it's on a plastic-ish sticker or decal that's on a piece of paper, and then you take it, you put it in some like lukewarm water. It slowly separates from the paper, and then you want to get nice and loose, and you just kind of slide it from the paper onto the rocket. And if everything goes perfectly, and it usually does, it gets on there. And if you need to refloat it, you put a little bit of drops of water on and you move it into position, all good. And as long as you don't bump it, you're fine. When you're dealing with 50-year-old decals that were in your dad's garage for those 50 years and was exposed to hot and cold for those 50 years, the decals don't necessarily hold up all that well. And so what's been happening is I put them into the water and they disintegrate as soon as I try and get them off of the paper. So there's a model rocketry forum. I'll link to it in the show notes that I participate in. And there's actually a guy who had done this build. And so he's been great because someone has come before me and solve some of these problems. And so the advice from the forum is that you take like a clear acrylic and you spray the decals with it. And then that gives them enough cohesion so that you can actually float them off the paper and get them onto the model. And he was able to do this with his. He took it next level. His is amazing because he got it signed by William Shatner.
Nice.
He
Very
launched it. It survived the launch, and he got it signed by William Shatner, and now he has it in a glass case. It's very, very
nice. Very nice.
I'm just hoping to get the decals on it. So
yeah,
that's plan A. Plan B was the one that you were alluding to, was color laser printing them onto a decal sheet and then using that to get them onto the Enterprise.
Yeah, I discovered that you can get laser print, and I think you can also get inkjet water slide decal paper that's blank. And I had gotten some because I wanted to get some, like, do some like cyberpunk signs and other things like that. And rather than paint them, I could mock them up and put them up in Photoshop and then just print them.
Right.
Or rather, I should say Affinity Photo now.
Right.
But yeah, it worked pretty well. I imagine that the 50-year-old decals, I think the water slide decals basically is just, I mean, it's just a very thin film of plastic. And
Yes.
so 50 years of
Yes.
oxidation and hot and cold, that's not going to do that any favors. So
yes.
I hope
so I do have, sorry, go ahead.
I hope the clear coat trick works for you.
Yeah, so as I was alluding to before, or as you and I were talking about before the show, I'm trying to first with the decals I care about the least, right? So like the minor detail things that are going to go like on the struts that go up to the warp nacelle. I don't care if they're on there because the model looks really good right now without the decals. I mean, I could call it mission accomplished right now, but I really want to have like the U.S.S. Enterprise, and I want to have like 1701, right? I want those decals on there. I just need them to survive. So we'll see how it goes.
Yeah, it could be another, like, if you don't have those on there, I mean, it could be just any Federation vessel of the same class. It would have to be the Enterprise.
Yeah,
so,
I could come up with other ways of doing
the
this.
decals.
Because I have another kit. I have a second unbuilt kit. So, I've thought about, okay, well, that's going to become like the Constellation or something, right? But as an example, so this is the orbital transport, also from a similar time period. And these decals, they survived, right? Like they show up just fine. They mostly made it on to the rocket okay. But you can see with this one, this is where like it broke up.
Yeah.
Right. And trying to get it to float back in its place. I think it may have also shifted after I finally got it on. So, it's fine. Like I actually built this. They actually have a upscaled version of this now that I would love to buy, but I've told myself I'm going to build all these other rockets first. So, and then while we're talking rockets, R2 is done.
Nice. R2 looks really nice.
Yeah. The only thing I need is a glass bead for his one little eye thing here. But yeah, R2's done.
Do you still intend to launch R2?
I do intend to launch R2, and I still have, because I have the most important part of R2, as we've discussed before, which are his wings, which you have to put on the legs or else he just doesn't fly. I mean, he flies, just not in the direction you want him to.
I mean, I think R2 after launch is probably going to look more like R2 after being in swamps of Dagobah. But
so after I finish the Enterprise build, and I might do some of the decal streaming on Moonbeam. I've been trying to get my setup going. I didn't do the painting because I was afraid of all the fumes, because it's very fumey paint. But I think after this, I'm probably going to do the another Enterprise, which is the Space Shuttle Enterprise, because I have the original full-on Space Shuttle kit with the external fuel tank and the rocket boosters and the glider and whatever. And if it's like some of the other kits I built from SDs, they'll have multiple decals for like all of the orbiters. So we shall see.
Yeah, I don't. I built that kit.
Yes,
but it was way back when I was in junior high, and I think it was shortly after it came out was when I built it. I don't think I put any decals on it. I will say that unlike the actual shuttle, my launch did not go well. So, shuttles, when they get off the launch pad, should not make a hard 90-degree right turn.
Correct. That's generally frowned upon.
I mean, it survived. The shuttle did separate from the tank, but it did not glide down because it was already on the ground.
Yes. Yeah, that's generally something behavior you don't want to see in a space shuttle. But yeah, so I'm going to launch these. I'm going to try and do some videos when we do them. So it'll probably be sometime this winter. And
That'd be awesome.
after the space shuttle, Klingon battle cruise. I got one of those too.
Oh, wow. Nice.
Yeah, it looks really, really cool, but it also looks really hard.
Yeah, I have the
Might be a good
Mars
winter
lander
project.
that I started way back when and would like to finish.
Well, maybe you and I can do it together because I
don't even know if I have all the parts still, but yep, that's it. That's it.
So this is my white elephant, and someday I will build this kit. All of this work is to build this kit because this is a level 5. This would be the hardest rocket I've ever built in my life. So get ready for it.
Yep. Yeah. So it's one of those things. I need to find it, but I know I still have it. I just don't know if I have all the parts to it. So we'll see. We will.
Well,
see.
I have the instructions. So if we needed to improvise, between the two of us, we might be able to have dual Mars lander launch.
Yes.
Let's come out to Indiana. Because if there's one thing that you guys have, it's wide open spaces.
Yeah. I mean, the last time I launched a rocket was when I was with my kids and I and Aaron. We built 2 rockets, and we went out to a local park and launched them. And after launching the second one of the park rangers came out and said, "Hey, you can't do that here." I'm like, "Oh, did things change?" Okay. So I don't know exactly what the rules are anymore for launching, although we also have cornfields out here, so that we probably just
honestly, you just need
find a
permission.
convenient one.
Mostly it's just getting the permission of the landowner. So out here we actually have rocketry clubs, and there's some places in New Jersey and Pennsylvania where you can launch. So I'm probably gonna go. There's a high performance one in central New Jersey that I'd go to that's like
Nice.
45 minutes from here. So I'm just going to queue these out. They all have like these massive, huge rockets, and I'm just going to show up with the little ones, but
Little tiny. Yep.
Yeah. But you know what? Like if this glider actually flies, I will be so happy. And if it crashes, I will also be happy because I launched a thing and it came back to Earth.
If only like the air tags and stuff were not super heavy, you could put that in there and be able to find it again, depending upon how far it goes.
Yeah, with the bigger ones, I think there would be less of a problem. You could probably pretty easily put them in the nose cone. But with the smaller ones, it's gonna be
smaller ones are hard.
So Dracula?
Yeah, so I've been avoiding Dracula. So I have my entire life. I've liked theater, but I've always worked behind the scenes. I've always done the tech side. I've either done lighting or sound, built sets, things like that. Aaron has been doing a couple of different shows and has enjoyed them. And Dracula came up and she's like, "You should go out for that." And I was like, okay. Of all the different types, all the shows out there that I could do, Dracula is one of the ones that would pull me in to do it. It's my first time on stage. I was not expecting to get Dracula. Our Dracula is actually amazing. And actually, I'll tell you a bit about him in a second, but because there's an interesting geeky connection. But I'm playing the attendant, who I find hilarious to play because he's a serious guy, but his job is to make sure Renfield stays in his cell. Renfield never stays in his cell or room, and the attendant always gets blamed for it. Basically, it is based on the novel. It was written in 1927, but it's based on the novel a little bit different. Instead of Dracula coming over on a ship, he flew on an airplane, and Mina is already dead, and now Dracula is after Lucy. And so it's a good one. There's a surprising amount of understated comedy to it.
Nice.
And I have actually I have it here. This is the playbill, or not playbill. What is it? It's the script for it.
Mm-hmm.
And in the back of it are how to put together the electrical. Here's how to put together the property. Here's some notes on the production. They have a section in here about how to publicize it, etc. But there is a section in here that I find hilarious. I don't know if people back in 1927 were like easily scared, or if this is just more of the comedy, because they suggest having a nurse on staff in the lobby of the theater in case people pass out.
Okay.
In case they faint. Here's one thing that I highlighted, which is unless your audiences are more hardened than audiences played to in New York and on the road, you will have people fainting in the auditorium for the nurse to take care of. And this is always good for press material. And they suggest offering faint checks, which are kind of like rain checks, so that if you do faint during a performance, if you go to your doctor and get them to sign it that you're okay to attend again, you can come back and watch the full play.
Wow.
Yeah, it is. Some of this stuff is just hilarious. And not because it's old or not because it's corny, but like just the way that it's either a little bit full of itself or a little bit tongue in cheek. Because I'm pretty sure no one really fainted in the play of Dracula, even though it was 1927.
But I could totally see that, right? As one of the appeals. Like, do you know that they had a nurse on hand just in case someone faints? And prominently in the lobby, you see the nurse, right? And, and then
they also recommend an attractive nurse.
So this isn't Animaniacs?
No, they but like it reminds me of some of the gimmicks for theaters like the Tingler, or other things where they would modify a movie auditorium so that when things happened on screen, your seat would rumble, or they'd have like some sort of smell come in to the theater. This was done before those, I believe. And so like it's just hilarious.
That's awesome.
Some of this stuff. Our Dracula though. So he owns his own miniatures company.
Okay.
And used to work for Games Workshop and Raul Partha.
Wow.
So yeah. So
that's pretty cool.
More gaming stuff. I believe everyone in that production also games.
Nice.
Including the director. So
nice.
Yeah.
Very
so
cool.
we have a broad spectrum of age across the whole thing. I'm pretty sure Aaron and I, Dracula and Van Helsing, think Dr. Seward, we're all about the same age. And then the age, plummets by about 20 years, maybe 30. So, but that's nice. Appropriate for the play itself. But
definitely.
Yeah, it's funny. And they also had, the director had some fun stuff to do, which was he had us all write up backgrounds for our characters so we could kind of get into them more. So my character's ex-Navy, ex-British Navy, sailed around the world. And then after getting out has become an attendant at Dr. Seward's sanatorium.
Very cool.
Fun time. Learning my lines has been hard, but it's been a fun time.
I don't know that I could do it. I don't know that I could do it. I'm envious and in awe of everyone who is actually able to do it, but memorization was never my thing. I know there must be a certain amount of ad-libbing that goes, like you're getting close to the line, right? Presumably.
A little bit, like if you miss a word or two, it's not a big deal. We're not off book yet, so everybody's pretty darn close to the script as it is. But like when I went out for a walk today, I took my script with me and was just practicing Act 3 during it, and it's been good. I'm trying not to do any spoilers, but I mean it is from 1927, so but then again, I don't know how many times that play has been put on in recent years either.
Yeah, very true.
It's Act 3 is really funny for my character because he quits.
Wrapping things up, as you said earlier, I can subscribe to the show on YouTube, where we are now over 500 subscribers. In fact, we are at 532 subscribers at the time of this recording.
Slow and steady wins the race, right?
Slow and steady wins the race, folks. We finally crossed 500. We're excited. And we're excited to get back to recording now that we're into the fall and we've kind of wrangled all the vacations and kids and what have you. We are going to be doing a second Shadowdark House Rules episode. So if you've got a favorite house rule of your own, post on YouTube or email us at podcast@lairofsecrets.com.